today we have a very special video for you guys because we're showcasing not only a tank that you can pick up for free twice in two different variants, including the 59 pattern, which is of course the season pass reward that you guys can actually pick up right now on World of Tanks console, but also a earn operation for the Legion 59 pattern, which is of course the same vehicle. Now I have no idea why Wargaming decided that they're gonna add in the Legion 59 pattern as an earnable operation, as well as the fact that it's already earnable, but you know, it's Wargaming doing their thing, and unfortunately we get the same tank rather than having two different ones. Now what is also special about this vehicle is it is commonly despised within World of Tanks. Now I'm gonna potentially say that it shouldn't be within this video, and there is a few things that I like about this vehicle, but there's also a lot wrong with the vehicle as well, as I'm sure you're well aware if you've ever come up against one of these things. And right there, that is one of the biggest problems, is that massive cupola which just got penned by the Canonin 105 there, which is one of the biggest annoyances of mine when you do come up against this thing, because you are going to be getting penned quite often and it usually doesn't end up very well, and you're going to end up finding yourself being pumped very quickly, and with 1400 hit points, not necessarily the worst at tier 8, but it's certainly not the best, and therefore you are going to have some problems sometimes when playing this thing. But here you're seeing 986 damage. We did start the game late. I actually had to go somewhere at the beginning of the battle, but don't worry, because this battle is about to turn into something completely not what I was expecting. Now the T-77 on the enemy team deciding he's going to YOLO in, which obviously worked out very, very well for him, considering that he is now going to be sent back to the garage pretty quickly right there by the defender. So, what do you have with this vehicle? Why should you get it as part of the season pass? And what do you need to look out for when deciding to play this? Well, right there you're seeing that the turret armor of this thing absolutely sucks. We talked about the cupola, but pretty much the entire turret is also a weak point, so people don't even have to pen the turret. Cupola weak point, they can just pen the turret anyway, and that means that you are going to struggle a lot of the times when coming up against the majority of vehicles. Even lower tier vehicles are going to find it very easy to penetrate you, and it's just not a fun tank in armor wise. But remember, it reloads pretty quickly. It has 240 alpha. You got a 5-second reload. Of course, when you're using combat rations, that can come down to about 4.8 seconds, which is really nice. I mean, that's pretty substantial damage per minute. You're probably looking in the region of about 2,800 damage per minute when using the combat rations and activating them. When you're not, probably 2,600. So yeah, I mean, it's a fairly well-rounded tank in terms of its damage and also the accuracy of the tank, but you don't have particularly anything amazing. Like, it is not exceptional in any one thing. Now you're seeing me play this as kind of a little bit of a support tank. I'm going for the spotting damage and I'm going for the damage, which is how this tank should be played. You cannot brawl with this thing. You don't have the armor, you don't have the alpha damage. You got 240 alpha with this thing, meaning that pretty much everything you come up against is going to have basically the same alpha or basically more. And often if you're coming up against things like a KV4, or you're coming up against Soviet heavies, or even things that you're seeing from the American line, you can get hit for 320 alpha, you can get hit for 400, all the way up to 490 at this tier, which kind of really does suck. And obviously if you're coming up against some of those tank destroyers like the ISU 152, it can be even worse. And there is an ISU within this game, but so far we've picked up within this game 5,000 combined damage, which is a very good game for the 59 pattern. Of course, it doesn't come around that often since it's not the most overpowered tank, but I feel like sometimes I like showing these random weird vehicles on the channel, because there's a lot of times I could sit there and I could play, I don't know, the Centurion AVRE and have an amazing game and show how broken it is or whatever, but sometimes it's interesting to see some of the more unique tanks, some of the tanks that we don't often get to see on YouTube, and hopefully you guys have got got that throughout all of the videos I've posted, and that's kind of what I aim to do. One good play here, I go for one side, the HMH obviously thinking that I was going to go the other side, and we actually end up baiting him, but unfortunately don't manage to pick up the Indian Panzer there. But hopefully, going back to the first point, was that the channel is supposed to be showcasing all vehicles and World of Tanks, not just the overpowered ones. Of course they bring the biggest hype, but things like this are fantastic vehicles in their own right when you can get them working and if you know how to play them. Now if you don't know how to play them, then yeah, they do suck and they are going to be a little bit annoying to play. But that's where, you know, you can learn the game, and some of the tanks that may at first seem kind of bad actually end up being some of the best ones when you start to learn the game, because they are more flexible and you don't have to rely on things like armor. So for example, I see a lot of players in the game relying on, oh, I like a tank with armor because it kind of stops me from getting punished as much. Whereas my opinion now, having played so many games and spending hundreds, well, thousands of hours on World of Tanks console, I now no longer rely on armor, and in fact if I can trade off armor to get better statistics in every other aspect of the vehicle, I will 100% do it. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're taking a hit, you can usually avoid it in the first place, so obviously the best choice is to try and avoid the shells of damage rather than take them or potentially bounce them using your armor. So I mean that becomes a big thing, and also that you want to be able to deal damage back consistently to people, and often vehicles with a lot of armor have a lot of downsides, which is something else, and often not very flexible. They're slow, they usually have bad accuracy, stuff like that, whereas this tank doesn't have that. It has a bit of speed, you know, you're looking at about 45 kilometers an hour. You could boost it up with some of the equipment if you wanted to. Has good accuracy, it's got good damage per minute, and therefore it's more flexible. So for a new player, however, they're probably less likely to find this fun because, you know, you've got to know about weak points with this tank. It's not just a auto aim and pen everything. It also has no armor, so every single round that hits you is going to pen. So if you don't know how to avoid the shells or try and find other ways of taking no damage, then it's going to suck. And also the fact that, you know, you do have to reposition with this thing to be able to get damage, because remember, it relies upon its damage per minute. So I feel like in these reviews I have to be critical of both, you know, that I've played a lot of World of Tanks is to what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm literally just trying to say I've played a lot of World of Tanks, so this result is probably not what you'd expect from a 59 pattern, and often it'd probably be way worse, because this tank is not particularly the easiest to play, and often you're going to find yourself in a situation where I just don't think it's going to work to this level. I mean, you've seen me pick up 5,600 combined damage here, which, I mean, is one of the better games that the 59 pattern can probably have, just because of all of the facts that we've mentioned, you know, the armor, the mobility, and the gun, and all of those factors. And so a map like Deep Valve Ridge is very, very nice for this vehicle. We're trying to chase down the last remaining vehicles, like this ISU in the cap, which we do manage to pump out a little bit of damage towards him. We go for that final shell, and we do hit it, and of course, nearly picking up 4,000 damage. But I ping to my teammates in the cap to attack to try and find this Barask that is last in the game, so maybe we could get some more damage. But unfortunately, it doesn't end up happening, and of course, we are just chasing it down now. But I take this portion to kind of ask your opinions on this tank. Have you managed to get to the level required to actually pick up this vehicle? I believe it's the season rank 75, or if you've managed to get your hands on the operation where you can get the Legion 59 pattern, or if you've had this tank for a while. Yeah, I'll be very interested to see what you guys think. But of course there, the Victory, 3,977 damage, 1,979 base experience with 1,800 assistance. The Mastery badge, of course, yeah, very, very good result in this premium, and we made 128,000 silver as well, which is very, very nice on top. So the next game that we do have is, of course, on Bron, and Bron is a map that I find to be it's kind of a bit weird because you find that you never have like outrageously good games on Bron. At least I don't usually have like these, you know, like the 10k damage games or the 8,000 damage games in a tier 8 or something ridiculous like that. And that's probably because the map is very linear in terms of how it ends up. It often ends up in the same way. It's very predictable, which means that you don't end up with the scenarios where maybe certain teams do some weird things that don't usually work and then you end up actually winning by a country mile. So it is a very linear game. I mean, the majority of times you're going to see people fight over this mid-ridge, you're going to have people over on the right hand side of the map, and you're obviously going to have people in the town. But of course in this game we are fighting in this middle ridge, and with the gun depression that this tank gets, you can easily do that. Remember though, the first thing that the opponents are going to see is that giant cupola, so yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks if anything was lurking back there with a massive gun, because I mean, even the actual turret is not going to be able to match this thing. But we're there trying to get some shows on this SU-100. Kind of play a little bit unsafe there. We have no idea what's at the back and probably didn't want to go for that shot on the SU-100 anyway. But we go for the shot on the Dreadnought since it's a free shell of damage, and you know, even if they go undetected, you can still hit them, and a lot of people seem to never realise that within console. And remember, you know, if a vehicle is there, they go unspotted, they are still there, it's just that you can't see them. And yeah, blind fires are an easy way to add, you know, 500 damage to your games without taking any hits, so they're just basically free damage. So I always implore you guys, if you think that there's a vehicle there or you've seen something go flying in, then always make sure to try and blind fire. There you go, the first bounce that we've had in a long time. I believe it was a small gun from the M6 there hitting us for 40 damage, so I mean, there you go, at least we bounced one round in this video. Either way, you see already picked up what, 1100 damage for free within this, and we're trying to get some shows on the Sturmtiger. Not quite sure where I could hit, but unfortunately don't manage to do it. And there we go, not managing to hit blind on the AT-15. Now, for some reason the M6 and our team sat behind us. Always a bit wary of teammates, especially if you do get spotted and you're trying to back up and they're just sat side on behind you. But either way, one thing that I feel like a lot of people do wrong on a map like Bron is that they try and YOLO or push too hard. Of course, pushing is good when the time is right, and you'll see it within this game when we do decide to push, but a lot of the times it's unnecessary and it's not really worth it. Now I'm trying to track the Carnarvon, keep him in place for maybe my teammates to help out, but they don't seem to want to do that. And although I'm going for the blind fire, we don't manage to hit it again. So it's kind of pointless in tracking him, but of course if you can track and deal damage then that is ideal, but we don't manage to do that here. Now at this point I'm deciding, you know what, it's time to get rid of these M6 and the people pushing in the valley, since we don't want to get sausage sandwiched. As I always say, it's never good when you get one in front, one behind, if you know what I mean. So we're going to make sure we get the ones from behind out the way, and then we can deal with the ones in front. So, you know, not particularly a great game in terms of the damage, but we've been kind of pivotal on this central role. I'm not going to say I've had, like, you know, the biggest impact of all of the players on the team, since we were all on this mid-ridge, making sure we secure it, and then we can move from here to wherever we need to go. Now I'm thinking that we need to get rid of this or Carnarvon that sat in the back, or the Centurion. And of course we need to get rid of the Sturmtiger P, since, you know, that thing can pen us quite easily, and of course it has a big derp gun that nobody wants to get hit by. We managed to find the top of the side of the Sturmtiger. Remember, it is just a Ferdinand or a J Panther kind of hull, so, or superstructure I should say, which is very easy to pen. It's not going to be a problem. And at this point we're now just deciding it's time to push. The game is very well won. We'd have to do an absolute miracle to lose this, so we decide to go in, try and get some extra damage, and you can see that here up against the KV-85. We dish out around and then hopefully we can finish him on the move. No point in stopping, since I want to go towards this Borsig that was last spotted up here from my own memory, and there we go, the Borsig actually is up in the bush to my right, which is a bit unfortunate. We take a 700 damage hit, or just under, which kind of sucks, but either way we decide it's time to load the HE. The Borsig is easy HE pen if we can manage to hit it, and of course that's what we're aiming to do. But the Borsig obviously knows that we are going to be coming around, and he looks like he's coming, and then of course we missed the shell on the Borsig, meaning we've run out of HE and we're back to 250 alpha, or 240 alpha instead of the 320 that we get with HE, I believe. But yeah, now we can just wait. Hopefully the Borsig will take one more shell and we can just stroll in and pick up the last remaining damage. Of course, the Borsig trying to get a shell of damage on us. He does pen us, but it doesn't quite roll high enough, and we end up on 7 damage. So yes, we lost a lot of hit points. You saw there, 2 rounds taken. Pretty much all of the hit points are taken out. Obviously, in a game where you didn't need to take out the Borsig, or if you weren't winning, I wouldn't have tried to take both of those hits. And of course we would have played safer, but you know, when we're just trying to maximise damage in a game, that's exactly what we're going to try and do. And 3052 damage and 878 in a pretty quick game, and hopefully that's given you an idea as to the 59 pattern. That it's good to a degree, that it's also kind of bad, and of course why you may want to actually go out of your way to pick this thing up and actually try it out in the game if you do manage to get it in the season pass at rank 75. And of course let me know what you think of this vehicle, if you've already got it or if you're trying it out as we speak. And I hope you guys actually try out some of these less broken vehicles, and hopefully we can all have a nicer time in the game, not facing 10 Centurion AVREs in every game. But other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.